Good morning. How's everybody doing? Good. What's good on like a 1 to 10? Say it out. 8, 7? Yeah. Raise your hand if you're going to camp. Any camp kids out here? Come on. I am so excited to be at camp next week and also excited to be here this morning with you. I just want to let you know you have a phenomenal team. I've had a behind-the-scenes look at all things Church 360 this month, and I just can't say enough good things about your entire team. Pastor Matt, Pastor Luis, Pastor Drew, Pastor Pat, Vicky, the whole team. You have an incredible worship team. Did y'all love worship today? I loved worship today. And again, just want to let you know that, man, you have a phenomenal church. I know you went through a name change, Church 360, Students 360, and the important thing there, something I want to highlight that's beautiful about that, is that it puts you part of a family, right? You're not just a youth group that meets on Sunday, but you're part of a bigger church. Like a family has little kids. Anybody have like little siblings or like cousins where you see them at Christmas and they're just annoying and they hang out with you all the time? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah, and you have adults like parents that have been through the things that you're about to go through, right? That have gone before you. And just like there's people that you can gain wisdom from in a family, there's people you can gain wisdom from in your church. You're not just isolated as a student ministry, but you are part of a greater family of a really, really big, really, really exciting, generous, powerful church that you get to experience and you get to live in. So really hope that you enjoy that. I know God at the Movies is coming up pretty soon. You'll be able to go on Sundays and see Rusty and watch Avengers, and just really hope that you take advantage of that as a church. I have 2 things that I want to confess. Pastor Matt already confessed a few of those things, but first things first, I am a talk-back pastor. So if you hear something and it's good, I need you to say, that's good. So let's try that real quick. Awesome. And if you say something that's not that good, I mean, you can say what you want there too. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? Yes, I want to hear you this morning. So let's practice a little bit. I'm going to say something, and when you know the ending, I want you to end it for me, all right? So really easy one. Like a good neighbor. Awesome. And then Subway, Eat Fresh. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I know that's an old one. Nobody here eats Subway anymore. That's weird. I'm sorry. And then like a great philosopher once said, I get my peaches out in. There we go. I'm glad I'm in the right place. All right, so my second confession is a little bit of a deeper one. Can I trust y'all? All right, so this is the hard one for me. So does anyone here play basketball? I love basketball. It's definitely my favorite sport. It's probably the one I'm the best at. And if any of you want the smoke after this, we can figure out how to do that after church. But I played basketball as a kid, 7th and 8th grade. I was on an AAU team called the Blue Chips. And we were good in Slidell, but we weren't really that good outside of Slidell. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Like you're the best in your city, but then when you go out into these big tournaments and you're in like Birmingham or Alabama, you're like probably not top 10, you're probably not top 20, you're probably not top 30. Like you're one of those teams. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And so we were playing in this tournament in New Orleans, in the Lario Center. It's like in the west bank of the city. And if you've been to an AAU tournament, it's like there's huge courts and there's 8 games going on at once, and it's hard to keep up. And we win our first game, and I am excited. I had scored like 12 points, which was a big deal for me. I was more of a defensive guy. And we were playing this second team called the NOLA Elite. And as we're warming up, this light skin shows up, part of their team, and he's got like the entire drip set on. And this is like 2009, 2010, so way before his time, but he's got like the arm sleeve and the leg sleeve, and he's playing with his earrings in, and I'm like, who is this kid? You know, you ever have that where you're looking at the guy and like before he even steps on the court, you're like, I'm going to lock this dude up. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? And so I get that, right? And we're playing first quarter of the game. I've got like 6 points. He's got like 4 points, and we're winning. But for some reason, my coach is thinking that he's taking advantage, and so end of the first quarter, my coach comes up to me and he says, hey, I need you to lock this dude down. All right, he's pretty dangerous. And I'm like, dangerous? Whatever you say. And I loved getting in people's heads. So he'd come down, and he was backing me down, and I'd be like grabbing onto his jersey and as he's running away, or like he's posting me up, and I'm like pulling his pants down, trying to get into his head. You know what I'm saying? I did anything I could to get in this dude's head. And as I'm walking back, like he's coming off of a screen and I'm yanking him. And of course, referee doesn't call anything because I was a skinny white kid at the time. And that probably felt bad for me. And he's running across the screen, loses the ball. And as we're going the other way, he looks at me. He's like, bro, you need to stop that. And I'm like, do something about it. See, y'all know where this is going. So he gets the ball next time. He looks at his coach. His coach nods his head. Again, I'm clueless. He takes a stutter step, and I'm backing up, trying to stay in front of him. He takes a stutter the other way. I'm backing up again. And before I know it, his knees are on my shoulders, like all the way up. And it was probably the most embarrassing, traumatizing thing that's ever happened in my life. First time I've ever been dunked on. And again, like I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know who he was, and I guess I didn't check the rankings or something, because at the end of that game, he drops like 25, we lose the game. And as I'm walking back, somebody on a team that wasn't playing looks at me and he's like, "You got dunked on by Kelly Oubre." And I'm like, I did not know who Kelly Oubre was at the time, and now he's in the league, and it's like, man, I was holding on to the wrong thing. Has anyone ever been there before? My question for you today is, what are you holding on to? Obviously, in the basketball game, I was holding on to something that I probably shouldn't have been holding on to, right? If I would have known the things I needed to know, I might not have held on. And I want you to know today that everybody holds on to something, right? If you're eating a cheeseburger, you're probably holding on to it, right? If I'm lifting a podium, I'm probably holding on to it. And if I'm drinking a water bottle, I'm probably holding on to it, right? Now, logical explanation is that I need to control this thing to get what I want out of it, right? A water bottle is not just going to do all this stuff by themselves. But my question to you is, have you ever held on to something like a relationship? Have you ever held on to something like your reputation? And a lot of times, it's logical, because when you're not controlling something, you don't know what's going to happen to it, right? Has anyone ever been there before, where you get anxious when you're like, oh, I trusted somebody else with this information, or I'm going out of my way to give something to somebody, and I just don't know what they're going to do with it. And it's hard when we think about our theme this month, which has been love, because love is something that's given, right? Love isn't something that you hold for yourself. In fact, if you hold on to love too tightly, it doesn't deepen the love. It turns into manipulation. And manipulation isn't love at all. And we know the Bible talks a lot about that, right? John 3:16 says that for God so loved the world that he gave, right? So again, love is something that you give. John 15, if we have that on the board. John 15 says, "Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for his friends." Love is something that's given. It's something that's shared. And Jesus knew a lot about not just what love is, but the implications of it. Sometimes love is what it's supposed to be, and sometimes, as you know, and it's not, right? Jesus had, as he's walking through life, he had his top 3 best friends, and one of them is somebody who was pretty special. He was one of Jesus' top 3, like I said. He's a big disciple, somebody I relate to the most. He's the artist formerly known as Simon. His name is Peter. Somebody knows. Thank you. So Peter is, again, one of the disciples, and again, Peter means Petros, means the rock, right? And you would think of somebody whose name is the rock as a tough guy, and you'd probably be wrong in this case. He's kind of like Pastor Matt's dog, Kylo, who's big in the bark, but not so much in the bite, right? And sometimes he even bites the wrong direction. And a story of that is when Jesus is in Caesarea Philippi, which is a Roman city. He's walking down the halls of Caesarea, and there are these big Roman statues of all the Roman gods, and people are worshiping them. And as Jesus is walking, he asks his disciples, "Who do these people say that I am?" And of course, John says, "Well, some say you're Elijah." And then James shows up, and James says, "Some say you're John the Baptist." And Jesus nods with all of these, and then he looks back and he says, "But who do you say that I am?" And this was Peter's moment. He steps up and he says, "You're the Messiah." And Jesus looks at him and says, "Yes, good job." He says, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-John, for flesh and blood had not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven." And so the confetti goes off, and things are exciting, and Peter kind of wins that moment, right? Teacher's pet edition. And not too long after that, Jesus is giving the details of what Messiah means, right? Because Messiah is somebody who wins, and to win the fight, he kind of describes the fight, how he's going to go down somewhere, and he's going to suffer. And Peter doesn't really understand that. If we can go to the verse, please. In verse 21 of Matthew 16, it says, "From that time, Jesus began to show his disciples and explain to them that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things at the hands of the elders and the chief priests and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed on the 3rd day and be raised to life." Now, Peter took him aside and began to, what's that word? What's that word? Now, Jesus is God in the flesh, right? And Peter shows up and he rebukes him and he says, "Never, Lord." He says, "This shall never happen to you." And I want to pause here for a second to think about the nerve that Peter must have had, right? He takes Jesus to the side and says, "Jesus, I need to talk to you. You're crazy, man. You're tripping. You're talking out your neck, right? Like, you're God in the flesh, and I'm the one who revealed that to you, so I know you might not know that yet, but God doesn't suffer. God doesn't suffer." And so he goes and tries to get Jesus to understand Peter's point of view. Now, I just think of that as like the audacity, right? Like God in the flesh, and you're going to tell God he's wrong? Verse 23, Jesus turns and says to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me." Now that seems pretty serious, right? So Peter, in the span of like 4 to 5 minutes, goes from being the superhero to the stumbling block. From staunchly defending the truth of Jesus to his face to being someone who's tripping Jesus up. Have you ever been there before? Where like you were right for a second and then right after that you're wrong? Peter's there. And I want you to think about, man, how quickly those tables turned. Imagine Jesus' feelings there. He's probably assuming that Peter is getting it finally, right? Peter, you understand who I am and what I've come to do. I can trust you with a little bit more. And then he does something like this. He takes it back. And it's something that I think all of us have learned. And my point number one for the day is that when you trust, you don't control. When you trust, you don't control. Well, because if I trust this water bottle to do what I believe that it can do, but my hands are on it, am I really trusting it or am I controlling it? I'm controlling it, right? Trust is something that is given. And it takes a lot to trust somebody, to confide in somebody, to tell them all your secrets. And sometimes trust can be fragile. Has anyone ever been there before? See, I like to think of trust as this pot. Now, this pot is pretty sturdy, right? And fragile. And inside of it, we can put some dirt in it and we can put a plant in it and it can grow, right? We can build a healthy plant just like in trust, you can build a healthy relationship, right? Love is founded in trust. And if we don't have trust, we don't have a relationship. The hard thing is that when I hold this for myself and it's mine and I know what's in it? It's empty, right? Trust without giving it to someone is empty. Love without sharing it with someone is empty. And when I think about this, I think about how safe this pot is in my hands. And honestly, it should be because it's mine. And if I paid for it, I should want it to be safe and sound. You know what I'm saying? But love is something that has to be given. When I trust something, when I give you my trust, I don't control it. Now, we can go through life trusting ourselves, or we can go through life the way that I believe God wants us to. Pastor Drew said last week that love is in our nature, and I really believe that each and every one of us has a capacity and a need to love others, but we can't love others if we can't trust them, right? And we know that about love, that in our verses in 1 Corinthians here in the back, it says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It's not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices with the, what's that word? Truth. What's that word? Come on, talk back to me, please. What's that word? Truth. Awesome. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. Now, that sounds really good, doesn't it? Does anybody want that kind of love? If your hands are up, thank you. If your hands are down, you're probably lying to yourself. Love is really, really important. Like Drew said last week, we're meant to trust and to love one another. When we go out and we love freely, we're doing what God has asked us to do. Now, in order to love freely, you have to give out your trust, right? And as hard as that is, it's part of the way that we walk it out. And the dangers that are brought up in that are things that Jesus knew really, really well. We're going to continue our story from there with our next point, which says, what you hold, you don't trust. What you hold, you don't trust. And what I mean by that is that sometimes we hold on to things because we don't trust them naturally to do what we want them to do, right? I'm holding this water bottle because when I'm thirsty, I need it. And naturally, I don't believe that it's going to empty itself into me on its own, right? Naturally, that makes sense. And I want you to think about the things, again, that you're holding on to in your life because you need something out of it, right? Naturally, it's an inanimate object, and it's easy to see that the idea of control there, but what about our reputations that we control? All right, what about our status in our relationships, maybe our status on our sports teams that we control, that we try and manipulate all the things so that we look good 24/7, right? Oh, not you, but you know somebody, right? Somebody who says all the right things on Sunday, but then won't say all the right things in the locker room on Monday. Somebody who posts all the right stuff on Instagram, but then actually doesn't post any verses in their group chats and actually probably talks about things they shouldn't talk about in those group chats. I know, I'm not saying it's you, but I know you know somebody, right? Right? Come on. And somebody who maybe believes the right things here, but then when they're at school, doesn't act like they see the same things, right? People that are holding on to maybe their status in their sport, and they're working hard and they're grinding there, and they're kind of forgetting the God part of things because I can hold my sport, but I really can't hold my relationship with God. And if I can't hold it, then I can't control it. And sometimes that's hard for people, right? Has anybody been there before? I've been there before. And the fun thing, and something I really love about this Jesus that we get to love on and follow, is that he wasn't just somebody who stayed in heaven and looks down on us from below, but he sits high and he sees low. He's walked the path that you and I are walking. He knows the issues that we deal with. And as we get back on to Peter's story, Peter is sitting down and he's eating dinner with Jesus and the rest of the disciples. And they're just hanging out. And Peter doesn't know it yet, but this is the Last Supper. It's the last time that all of the disciples are going to be together with Jesus before he dies. And he's kind of identifying that. And Jesus is telling the disciples that, hey, I'm getting close to dying. I'm getting close to being hung on a cross, and y'all are going to run away from me. He says that, as the prophecy says, that when the shepherd gets struck, the sheep scatter. Right? And he's telling them this to prepare them. And of course, there's one disciple who hasn't quite learned his lesson. We're going to get on there to the verse. It says, as Jesus is saying this, verse 33 says, Peter replied, even if all fall away on account of you, I never will. Now, obviously, Peter feels like he's the most loyal dude in the room, right? The for-lifer or whatever you say. Like, he's the dude who's going to stick close to Jesus no matter what. And Jesus just isn't hanging with that. Verse 34 says, truly I tell you, Jesus answered, this very night, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. Now, if you think about this from Peter's perspective, somebody who's prideful and he just got outed in front of all of his friends, right? Jesus says, you're not that guy. He answers and it says, even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you. And all the other disciples said the same. But Peter being the first one to say, Jesus, say I won't die with you. Jesus kind of leaves it at that, and as we go on, it happens. Jesus gets arrested, and he's walking down to his court case, and all the disciples run. All of the disciples except Peter. Peter follows them at a distance, and as the guards put him in chains, and they put him into his court case, and he walks into the room, and he watches what happens to Jesus. Jesus gets down there, and they're laying out all the things they're accusing him of. And again, Peter's in the room. And as the onlookers are looking around, they notice that Peter was somebody who was with Jesus. He says, hey, this guy was with Jesus. And can you imagine what Jesus is thinking here? He's like, all right, Peter, here's your chance. Remember you said you were going to die with me? Remember you said you were going to be with me till the end? Here is your chance. And Peter stands up, he clears his throat, and he says, I don't know what you're talking about. Imagine that, right? Remember, Jesus is in the room. Even worse, Peter gets up to leave. Verse 71 says, he went out to the gateway where another one, this time it was a servant girl, saw him and said to the people, this fellow was following Jesus of Nazareth. And it says he denied it again with an oath. I do not know the man. So he's swearing at this little girl, telling her to get away. And again, this is the disciple that said, say I won't die with you, Jesus. Saying, I don't know the man. Verse 73, after a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, surely you are one of them. Your accent gives you away. Verse 74, then he began to call down curses and swore to them, I don't know the man. Immediately, the rooster crowed. Imagine that. Can you imagine Jesus with his best friend, right? The guy that he's been with forever. 3 years of doing ministry together side by side, telling him all of his secrets, equipping him to do all the things that he's supposed to do, trusting him with everything, right? Peter, you were supposed to be there. You had the opportunity to be honest. I wasn't asking for anything big. I was asking for honesty. I had trusted you with everything I had, and you threw it down. Can you imagine that? Listen. You're right. It's not very kind. But can I tell you something? Listen, I need eyes on me right now. Can you imagine that? Somebody you trusted for years and years, who you were supposed to go to war with for the rest of your life, lying on you like that. And you know what the hard thing for me is? Is that some of you sitting in this room can't imagine that. Some of you have been there. Some of you have trusted somebody with some important things, and they've let you down. Some of you have believed the best out of your parents, out of your best friends, out of what God was going to do with your life, and you trusted him with something fragile like that. And now all you have is what's left. And we sing these songs, and you hear all these messages about loving God and trusting God and walking this out, but all you can look at is what happened the last time you tried. And you're asking God, what do I do? Do I pick up the pieces? Do I try my best to get everything I can that's left and just live my life with what I have left? And you wonder, because we sing all these songs like it's easy. And if you're honest with me, you're like, Sean, it's not. Sean, I've tried. I've loved, and I've gone out of my way, and I've done my best, and I've sang the songs, and I've prayed, and I've given, and it's not that easy. What happens next time? Right? Some of you might be in this room tonight thinking, there is no next time, that I tried, and this is all I have, and God, I'm going to make the best of it, but this is tough. If you're honest with yourself, it's hard to believe that God can do something with the broken pieces. That's why I say that, man, I'm so grateful for a God that loves me enough to walk the walk that he asks me to live. Right? The Bible says that there is no temptation that you and I endure that Jesus hadn't endured already. It's good to know that we have a Father in heaven that put on flesh and walked the life he asks us to live. Is anybody here grateful for that? That we have a God that doesn't just stay in heaven, he doesn't just live in a book, but he puts on flesh and bone and he gets torn up. Right? For you and for me. He has best friends he's supposed to go to war with that lie on him. He has people that he thought were going to trust him until the end that leave and desert him. And what does he do with that? What does he do with that? Well, let's find out. So, as the story goes on, Jesus dies. He dies on the cross. And the disciples are off hiding. Peter actually goes out and hangs out with them, and they're out fishing, doing the things they used to do, right? Before this whole Jesus guy shows up, they're out fishing, hanging out. And if you know the story, Jesus rises from the dead, and he finds them in the Sea of Galilee. And what happens is he sits there, and he's like, hey, as they're fishing, hey, got any fish? Now, have y'all ever heard the duck song with the, hey, got any grapes? That's what I think about. It's a terrible song. I hate it. Sidebar. But back to it. So Jesus is over there, and he's saying, hey, got any fish? Now, remember, these are professional fishermen, right? If anybody knew how to fish, it would be the professionals, right? And as they're fishing, they're not catching anything. And Jesus says, why don't you try the other side? Now, me personally, I would have been like, well, no dip, Sherlock, right? Like, I am a professional fisherman at this point. You are somebody who I don't even know telling me to throw my nets on the other side? Like, sure. So they try it. They throw the nets on the other side, and lo and behold, they're catching a whole bunch of fish. And as they're catching these fish, John, one of the disciples, remembers the last time this happened. He remembers the last time that somebody on the side said to throw their nets on the other side, and they caught a bunch of fish. And he looks, and he squints, and he says, it's Jesus. And as this happens, before they even turn the boat around, Peter takes off his outer garment, jumps into the water, and heads towards Jesus. Now, remember, Peter was the one that broke all the trust, right? Who probably, strike one, strike two, strike three, was probably out of there, right? Like, legitimately, there was something in him, though, that told him that maybe he wasn't going to be in that much trouble. And as he walks onto the shore, he finds Jesus set up a fire with fish on it already. And Jesus, imagine this, was there with his hands crossed saying, explain yourself, right? Or apologize or else. Or, Peter, it's time. No, actually, Jesus was soft. He was warm. He sat him down, and let's pick up the story there. Jesus sits him down, and the conversation goes a little bit like this. Verse 15, in John 21. It says, when they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And he said to him, feed my lambs. He said to him a second time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said to him, tend my sheep. He said to him the third time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was grieved because he said to him a third time, do you love me? And he said to him, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. And Jesus said to him, feed my sheep. At the end of this, Jesus actually gets close to him and says, follow me, which is the same thing that he told Simon in the beginning. Before any of this happened, he tells him, follow me. He brings him back to the beginning. And man, if there's anything you walk away with in this message, I want you to walk away with this, that Jesus didn't ask Peter to pick up all the pieces. Jesus didn't ask Peter to explain himself. He didn't ask him to apologize. He didn't even ask him to mean it. He asked him, do you love me? Do you really love me? There are different words for love in the Greek, and the word that Jesus uses here is the strongest form of love. It's an undying, always committed form of love. And the second one isn't quite as strong. It's more of a familiar type of love. And that's the one that actually Peter uses back. So when Jesus says, Peter, do you unconditionally love me? Peter says, yeah, I love you like a bro. Like I love you like I love the Mavericks. Like I love my brother. Like I love everything else. No, Peter, do you love me unconditionally? Am I all that you ever want, all that you ever needed? Peter doesn't really understand that. Again, he answers with the phileo type of love, and it's interesting to me that Jesus doesn't correct him. Jesus takes him where he's at. He loves him where he's at, and instead of asking him to pick up all the pieces, Jesus gives him a fresh start. He brings him back to the beginning. And I know there are some of you out here that are thinking that you have to apologize, right? You have to get right before you get to Jesus, right? Or maybe there are some people in your life that you won't let them back in your life until they apologize, until they give you back everything they took. And Jesus didn't ask that from Peter. He asked him, do you love me? And when he did, he made everything new. He didn't have to pick up all the pieces. Jesus says, leave them there. Don't look back. Look forward. A fresh start. All over again. Trust again. Made new. Brand new. And all he had to do was love him. Imagine that maybe in your life, when we're trying to hold on to different things and we're trying to manipulate certain situations and get to where we want to be with our sports teams and our relationships and our parents, and we're trying to get into this really great status and we're holding on or we're trying our best, Jesus says it's not about what you're holding on to. It's about realizing that you're held. That God's love holds you. And all of your reaching pales in comparison to the strong love of God in your life. If you knew, man, the plans that God had for you, you wouldn't reach. You know, if you knew that the God of the universe had each and every day of your life laid out, that your name was written in his book of life, there's nothing that you could do about it. If you knew that, maybe you wouldn't try so hard, right? Maybe that guy or that girl at school and their attention wouldn't mean as much to you. If you knew that the God of the universe loved you unconditionally. And I want to head on that. Again, there is nothing else you get out of this. Realize that God isn't asking you to pick up the pieces of broken relationships, of times where you've messed up, or maybe times that people have messed up for you. God isn't asking you to pick up the pieces. He's wanting you to know that you're held. And our point 3 here, if you're taking notes, is when you're held, you don't hold. When you know that you're held, you don't hold. When the well's deep, you don't worry about drought. And great example is Pastor Matt up there. I've known Pastor Matt for 20 years of my life, which is crazy because I'm only 26, but there have been months in there that we haven't talked. Months go on where I don't see him and I don't say hi. And the cool thing is I don't worry about that because I know that he knows that I love him and he loves me. And if there was ever a call, that he'd be there. Stat. Right? And again, it's not because I've done all these great things, but because I know that, man, he's in my corner. And so I don't sweat when drought comes because I know the well's deep. And I wonder if there are people in your life that maybe could love you like that if you trusted them to. Maybe you've been hurt before And maybe you realize that God's given you newness, but you're scared to lose it, right? That I'm only going to go as far as I can reach because when I let go, I don't know what's going to happen. The only three people I can trust in my life are me, myself, and I. Have you ever heard that before? And the hard thing is that there's evidence for that, right? If you wanted to look for it, there's evidence for that you can't trust people, that people are going to hurt you, right? The beautiful thing, again, is that Jesus reached down and lived that life. And he didn't just stay there. He renewed it and gave it back to Peter, right? He trusted him all over again. And we can trust, you and I, all over again. Not because we're good enough, not because we're strong enough, not because we're tough enough to get hurt again. No, because Jesus loved us. Man, there have been times in my life where I've taken God's trust and I've said, God, I'm never going to do this again. And I meant it on a Sunday night. I really did. And then Friday night, Saturday night rolls around and you get that Snapchat and you're like, hey, let's go and all over again, right? Have you ever been there before? Has anyone ever been there before where you're like, man, I meant it, and then I broke it? Yeah? The beautiful thing here, again, is that, listen, eyes up here, is that God doesn't count that against you, right? Jesus, hey, listen, eyes up here. Man, that God loves you enough, God loves you enough to see you not as your past, but as Jesus's future. Crazy thing, and I can unpack this. It'd take 20 minutes, like a day to unpack this. But God sees you as Jesus' future. He sees you as completely righteous. And the good thing for you is every day His grace is new. He has another one for you, and another one for you, and another one for you. And you couldn't run out if you try. And what that does is that gives you confidence. If you really believed that, man, God's grace for me never runs out, I have everything I need, then you wouldn't live the life that you live. And if you're like me, there have been seasons of your life where you live with what I want to control, what I know I can get something out of. Maybe it's your athletic ability. And you're like, man, I can get something out of this, so I'm holding on to this. And I've been broken before, and I'm trying to put this back together, me, myself, and I, right? Kevin Gates once said that you got to get it out the mud, so I'm trying to get it by myself. And now I'm holding on to this, and if God had something new for me, I couldn't hold it. Right? Do you see this? If God had something new for me, if He had a flat screen TV that He wanted to give me, does any of this compare to a flat screen TV? Does it? No, but in my mind, I'm thinking, man, I'm holding on to this. I can control this. God, this is all I have. When He has blessings for you, but what you have to do is stop holding on and be held. And as easy as that sounds, I know it's hard in practice to stop caring about the things that you think your identity is found in. And if you're not, maybe not you, but you know somebody. I'm somebody who tried his best to make something out of the things that he thought he could control, his talents and his abilities. And I said, God, bless what I want, please. Didn't ask Him what He wanted. I asked Him to bless what I knew I wanted. And what ended up happening is it led to brokenness. It led to emptiness. And it took a while, but I realized that God wasn't asking me to hold on to the broken pieces. I could leave my past behind and embrace the future that He had for me. And what that does, what embracing His future does in your life is it takes the pressure off. Has anyone here ever been to altitude before? Yeah, or like, what's another one? Like the trampoline parks, you know what I'm talking about, urban air or something like that. Y'all ever seen like the jousting things? Bro, I love playing on those little jousting things. It's so much fun. And one of the fun parts about it is that there's always a foam pit around it. You know what I'm saying? Like, could you imagine jousting like 25 feet in the air in the parking lot? It'd be tough, right? Would anybody actually try that? I wouldn't, honestly. But I would try it with the foam pit because I know that I can try different things, and if I fall, there's a soft landing for me, right? Does anyone get what I'm saying? My fourth point today, and I'm going to end with this, the keys can come up, is when you're held, you feel it. When you're held, you feel it. Like I said, in urban air, I'll try some crazy things in urban air because I know that if I miss and I fall, that there's a soft landing, right? I want you to know that God has everything in your life in the palm of His hand. He has everything you'll ever need. And that tightrope you think you're walking is actually 4 feet. It's 4 feet deep. There's nothing that God can't protect you from. The fall that you think you're going to get if you get all this wrong, it's not deep with Jesus. His love is strong enough to hold. And it's, again, the last point today is I want you to know that it's not about holding on. It's realizing that you're held. And when you know that there's a hand to pick you up, when there's somebody who's going to be there for you when you fall, taking that risk is easy. And so as I close, Man, I want you to think, I want you to pray for a little bit with me. Is there anybody in this room that maybe this spoke to? Maybe you've been somebody who's been trying to pick up the pieces and you're holding on to the things that you think are important and the things that you think will get you liked. And it's hard to let go and to trust that God has something new for you, but you want to. And if that is you in the room, I want you to stand up. If you're somebody who says, I'm done holding on to the things that I've held on to, and I want to embrace God's love for me because I know life's better that way, I want you to stand up. And if you could give a hand for the people that are brave enough to leave their past behind and embrace their future. I am super excited for camp, and I can't think of a better way to enter into camp than free, with open hands. And so if you could, pray with me really quick, with every head bowed and every eye closed. God, we love you. Thank you for everything you've done, everything you're doing, everything you're going to do. God, thank you for loving me enough not to leave me on my own, but to walk with me. God, thank you that you don't stare at us from far off, asking us to figure it out, but God, you hold our hand. And God, as we hold on to the things that we aren't meant to hold on to, God, would you give us the bravery to let go, a bravery to release and to walk into the things that you have for us. God, help us to know that our tomorrows are better than our yesterdays. God, that we can trust you with what comes next because you've been there. God, you've walked the walk. You're the lily of the valley. You're the beginning and the end. You're the lion and the lamb. God, thank you that you walked this earth as one of us. God, that you took the scars and the beatings to show us that you are trustworthy. God, help us to release the things that we've been holding on to and embrace the future that you have for us. Because we know, God, that you love us, that you care for us better than anything we've ever seen, heard, or imagined. God, thank you for your grace. Help us to walk in it this week. In Jesus' name, everybody said, amen. Thank you.